Hey all you GBA type people, welcome back to week 3 of Pivotal Moments. I am KantoCastBlue.
And I'm Oldmantup.
And this is the show where we decipher all the moves in the matches for the Season 2 D-League. And then we tell you what the breaking points in the matches were that ultimately decided upon a victor.
Yep, we're just going to analyze the matches, pick out the pivotal moments, wink wink, and we're going to let you guys know what we think decided the match, ultimately with a turn or series of events.
It's a very clever name, make no mistake. So let's jump right into it, right? We had the San Francisco Arcaniners going up against the New York Shelmets this week. The Arcaniners brought Landorus, Hitmonlee, Zapdos, Uxie, Melodic, and Skunk Tank. The Shelmets had Mega Ampharos, Tornadus Therian, Manaphy, Amoonguss, Latios, and Blissey. So, let's just precursor this for just a moment, alright? This match had several recreates, and I think it was like 3, maybe? There's a lot. And that's enough to frazzle anybody, okay? Just laying that out first and foremost. But, ultimately, I think the pivotal moment in this match kind of led to a series of unfortunate events. There was a point in the game where Amoonguss did not go for a Spore against a Landorus, who ultimately U-turned onto an incoming Latios, which took it down quite a bit. I think it had maybe like 20% health left, something outrageous like that. A couple turns later, Blissey comes in, it is poisoned, it shoots off a Healing Wish into Latios, and then defogs onto a Skunk Tank to get rid of hazards, and then takes a Crunch and gets O-Code. So basically what you had there was 2 Mons going down because of an unfortunate U-turn onto an Amoonguss that could have stayed in.
Yeah, what we had there, and George mentioned it on his side of the match, which is Sceptile MC, his Landorus had Earth Power on it instead of Earthquake. It was gotten to him inappropriately genned, and that had Super Gassy guessing that it was a completely special set. And he had the Amoonguss in on it, and he was thinking that a Psychic was coming his way. So he switched into Latios, and unfortunately he got U-turned on and just decimated, hung on. But yeah, I agree with the Blue that just really led to a bad series of events, which ultimately lost Super Gassy 2 Mons to pretty much get rid of Stealth Rocks. And I do not believe that was well worth it in the long run of the match, and that's why I believe that was a pivotal moment in the match.
For anyone wondering, the Arcaniners picked up a 3-0 win over the Shelmets this week.
Yep, so that was the best of the best in the Yellow Conference. And now we're going to jump to the best of the best in the Crystal Conference. And that was between the Accrington Stantlers and the Seattle Staraptors. And the Stantlers brought Infernape, Latios, Florges, Scizor, Regirock, and Roserade, while the Staraptors had Crocodile, Megalophony, Registeel, Victini, Clefable, and Tentacruel. Now this was a really anticipated match, and it almost didn't happen because of some unfortunate circumstances, but they got it done. And bravo to those two for getting it worked out at the last minute. I have quite a few things written down for this match, but I'm going to say which one I think was most important first, because I think it ultimately led to the fall of the Staraptors, who ended up losing 2-0. And that was, Roserade was in on Registeel fairly much towards the end of the match, and Registeel couldn't really do much at this point. And Roserade got up 2 layers of Toxic Spikes, which meant any Pokemon that coming in was getting Toxic Poisoned. And Registeel just stayed in and tried to Iron hit. Well, actually, I believe it's tried to go for a Zap Cannon, which it had already hit 2 of earlier in the match, but missed, and then went for an Iron Head. Roserade was able to get Toxic Spikes up, go for a Hidden Power Fighting, get Registeel, which was a huge problem for Ellie's team, down to a range where Scizor could come in, go for knockoff, and take it out. And I think that series of events led to the ultimate loss that the Staraptors had. A few other things I had written down. Clefable was switched out into Tentacruel on an incoming gunk shot from Infernape, which took it out, and that really limited what Gearhart could do, as well as switch-ins to a lot of stuff on Ellie's team. There was an over-prediction made by Gearhart. Crocodile went for a knockoff on Infernape, expecting Latias to come in, and it failed to take out Infernape, and Infernape was able to get off a Mach Punch, which, I mean, would have almost took it out, so he had to switch out after that because Crocodile was scarfed. And the last thing I have was, there was a point in the match where Victini was in on Florges, and Gearhart hard switched out, and Ellie also hard switched out at the same time. And this was a huge loss of a potential grab and momentum, which could have changed the match. Ellie brought in Regirock, if I'm not mistaken, and I forget who Gearhart switched into, but it wasn't something he wanted to have in on a Regirock. Now, had he gone for U-turn, A, he would have outsped the Florges, I think, in any universe, and B, he would have gotten switch initiative, which he didn't end up with at the end of that. So those series of events, I think, were really, really unfortunate. But ultimately, I think Roserade getting the 2 layers of Toxic spikes up and being able to get Registeel into KO range for the next incoming Mon just made it to where Ellie could just run through the rest of his team after the racked up entry hazards.
100% agree with Tup on that. The entry hazards were crucial. It allowed Crocodile to go down to Toxic Poison after taking a Mach Punch from Infernape. It was all just beautifully crafted. So very well played by Ellie this game, particularly after not feeling well and having some health issues earlier in the week. Really well played. But I mean, yeah, the entry hazards were just way too much. I 100% agree. Next up, we have the Bouffalant Bills going up against the Miami Dolphinians. The Bills brought Crobat, Excadrill, Umbreon, Dusclops, Azelf, and Exploud. The Dolphinians had Nidoking, Porygon 2, Sylveon, Hitmontop, Weavile, and Rotom Wash. This one was an interesting match, I'll say. It did end up going down to timer, for those of you wondering. The Bouffalant Bills did pick up a 5-3 win over the Dolphinians, but there was a point early in the match that had something changed. I feel like the wall situation that the Bills had with Umbreon would have been a little bit different. I am talking about a Swords Danced Weavile missing an Icicle Crash onto an Umbreon. Now, in Will's side of the battle, he said that Umbreon would have lived. I didn't personally run the calcs, so I'm not 100% sure. But even if it had, Umbreon would have taken massive, massive damage. And as a wall, that is crucial, because the further you get down in damage, the harder it is to bring that particular wall in on situations that it was meant for. Not to mention the Icicle Crash could have gotten a flinch. We don't know. There's lots of untold potential that could have happened had Umbreon been hit by that Icicle Crash. Either way, Umbreon's health stayed up, and the Bills actually used Umbreon pivoting in and out of situations pretty frequently for the rest of that match. It did end up going down late in the game, but had it gone down earlier, the Bills would have lost an answer for a lot of its switch-ins. So, ultimately, I think that was kind of the game changer, and it was really hard to come back after losing, Weavile, one of the wall breakers on the Dolphinians teams. But, if I can, just want to add that 2 Ice Beam freezes? Really?
Yeah, they were back-to-back too, I think.
They were. I believe it was a point where Azelf got frozen, and then Umbreon came into Heal Bell and also got frozen. Just absolute insanity. But, well played by the Bills. The miss is not intended to cheapen the victory of the Bills. Make no mistake. Very well played by the Bouffalant Bills.
Alright, completely agree. And I don't want to say that Hardy would have definitely won had the Icicle Crash actually hit, because I know Will, and I am 100% certain that Will would have had an emergency button had Umbreon gone down at that point. He prepares way too well, and let us not forget that somehow in this match, a non-scarfed Azelf outsped Weavile.
Yeah, that's weird.
And when I saw it, I had to replay that 3 times. I was like, that didn't just happen. Because the first time I watched it, I watched Hardy's side, and he had it sped up, so it was really hard to tell where the in-between of the turns were. So I had to get it back to a point where I could make sure that that actually happened. And I'm just thinking, a non-jolly, swords-dancing Weavile that he needs to have max speed on for things like Azelf.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what? I mean, I don't know. But I completely agree that Icicle Crash miss, and it's really hard to tell how crucial that was, because I'm going to say that I think it was the most important turn of the match, just because this match wasn't completely decided. It was a 5-3 timeout. So, I mean, because there wasn't a clear and decisive victor, it's really hard to tell how terribly important in the overall scheme of the match that was. But again, without Umbreon, that limits the switching ability. There's no wish passing after that. So, as important a turn in the match that I can say that was it. But let's go to the Houston Gastros and the Washington Blazakins, which in my opinion is the match of the week.
So good.
It was so fun to watch. Mike's side of it. Mighty Mamoswine doesn't have his side of it up yet. He is also under the weather and unable to record. So my best wishes to him, and hopefully he gets well soon.
Absolutely.
But this match was so fun to watch on Mike's side, because you have two guys who don't have a victory yet, who are fighting, clawing, and scratching, and Mike is as close as you can get to not having a victory. Both weeks he's lost to an 0-1 deficit, and with a total of 5% health on the remaining accumulative Pokemon. So he has gotten as close as you can get without a victory. The Blazakins brought Mega Venusaur, Hydreigon, Gastrodon, Manectric, Mamoswine, and Alakazam, while the Houston Gastros brought Cobalion, Mew, Suicune, Nidoqueen, Spiritomb, and Togekiss. And let me say, it was very good to me to see Spiritomb get used in this match and how well it did, because it's one of my favorite mons. But let's get to the important stuff. Relatively early in the match, Manectric got a T-Bolt paralysis on Suicune and got the full paralysis on the first turn it had it, which limited what actually outright stopped Mike from taking out the Manectric, because he had Click Scald at that point, which would have just taken it out. In the grand scheme of things, that didn't matter as much as it seemed at the time. But I'm going to say, ultimately, and I have a few things after this, but Cobalion taunting Mega Venusaur, the turn it went for a synthesis was huge, and ultimately led to Mega Venusaur going down because it wasn't able to recover. It was burned, and it just kind of got chipped away to where Togekiss came in and was able to finish it off with an Air Slash. And I think that was the beginning of the end of the match. A few other things I have written down. Very unfortunate, Suicune getting 2 Sleep Talks that ended up being Rest with Hydreigon in, unable to roar it out or go for a Scald, which could have burned it, which it might have already been burned, but a Will-O-Wisp had missed earlier in the match. And here's another huge thing, and this was the best prediction of the week. Hands down, best prediction of the week. And probably might even top the Cobalion taunt on Mega Venusaur. And that was Togekiss was in on Hydreigon, who couldn't touch it at all. So Mike knew that Hydreigon was switching out. He had seen all 4 of the moves, and he looked over the team, and he knew Gastrodon was coming in, and he hit it with the Grass Knot, and it was a 2-hit KO, and there was nothing he could do at that point. And that was just, after watching the match, that was such a fulfilling moment in the match. I feel like the collective GBA universe just stood to their feet and screamed when that happened, because Mike had finally broken through, and that was such a defining moment in what I believe will be his GBA D-League Season 2 career, and that was just so fulfilling.
That, to me, the Grass Knot was just beautifully played and well deserved. You know what? That was an excellent play on Mike's part. And we typically, we have hacks that we go over. We have situations where there were misplays. This is an instance where it was just a beautiful turn that ultimately went on to get rid of a wall that Mike would have had an issue with, and then ultimately led to the Gastros winning.
Yeah, it was just such an awesome moment after having seen Mike struggle for 2 straight weeks to just barely lose matches. And then he makes this huge prediction late in the game, and it just paid out so much. It was just fantastic.
Always good to end on a happy note. Congratulations to the Gastros, who finally found their win, and not within a 5% margin this time. So, well played. There you have it, boys and girls. Our pivotal moments from the GBA D-League Season 2, Week 3. What do you think were this week's pivotal moments? Let us know in the comments below. And be sure to come back next week when we bring you pivotal moments from Week 4 of the Season 2 GBA D-League.
Alright guys, for KantoCastBlue and Oldmantup, we will catch you on the flip side. Peace.